Everyone wants to go to heaven, but no one wants to die first. It just dawned on me that there are many people who want to have a piece of the good life. But there are also many people who don't want to go through the defeats, the failures, the hardships, the struggles, even humiliation in order to get the piece of the good life. Hi, my name is Andrew, and I'm glad you're with me again on this episode of The Right Track. We all know that you can't turn back the clock on life. It's a one-way track, and we have to make good of the life we have on this world. Everybody wants to have a piece of good life. There's no doubt about it. I remember a young man who approached me after a seminar. He said, he posed some questions actually, and I would like to relate those questions in this episode, which makes, I believe, some sense. He asked me, he said, do you know that we can only propose and God will be the one who can dispose? All of us want to have a piece of good life, but it's ultimately God that decides. His name was Edwin. And I said, Edwin, you're right. God disposes. And you use the word propose. But when you propose, you have to have a plan. Am I right? Only with a plan, God can make an assessment. After that, He can dispose. Would that be correct? He looked at me and said, yeah. So if that be the case, do you have a plan for your personal growth? Do you have a plan for your professional growth? I said, no, I don't have a plan. It's like this, Edwin. You go to God and say, I want to be a good human being. Then you have to have a plan to build your character. Character is the one that will define whether you're a good or bad human being. Am I right? You say to yourself, I want to be a good spouse. You have a plan to develop your relationships. You want to make more money. Do you have a plan to develop your knowledge? You want to be promoted. You want to get a promotion in your career. Have you got a plan to sharpen your skills? Everything requires a plan. Only with a plan can you say that you're going up or you're going down. And when you have a plan, Edwin, you have to give your 100% to the plan. And this is where he stopped me. He said, what do you mean by 100%? How do I know that I gave 100%? That's a good question. How would someone know that they have given their 100%? I said, Edwin, I can only relate to you from my personal experience. And you know, I deal with criminals on a daily basis. I talk to them. Some of them have been charged, some have been convicted, some have been acquitted. I understand how criminals think. And believe me, there are a few things I have learned from them. Let me share with you, especially based on your question. You asked me, how do we know we have given 100%? You know, criminals, whether they are smugglers or hustlers, whatever they do, they give their 100%. If they are caught, they are okay with that because they feel they have given their 100%. Edwin looked at me and he said, I still don't understand. Tell you what, there was a prison break in Mexico. The head of a drug cartel. Do you know how he escaped? It's a small hole in his shower. He went through the small hole, he found a tunnel, walked a mile, and he escaped. Now let's look at this prison break. What was required of him? Number one, creative thinking. He didn't have the resources, but he was resourceful. He didn't have the tools. He managed with whatever he had. It also required long-term planning. He couldn't have achieved that overnight. And more importantly, perseverance. But above all of them, there's one factor. There was a hunger to be free. When you feel the hunger within you and you do something, you have given your 100%. Now, even if you have a plan, you still have to overcome what I call the mental roadblock. Here, nobody is stopping you, but you yourself, you're stopping yourself. How does it mean? It means like this. Because of past failures, because of the trauma of past experiences, it haunts on you. And you have these two big words that come in front of you. What if? The fear comes into you and stops you. This is a mental roadblock. And this happens because there's always a battle between the logical brain and the emotional brain. The logical brain, we consider the prefrontal cortex, and the emotional brain, the limbic system. The emotional brain, we deal with all the emotions: fear, anger, jealousy, suppression, hatred, defeats. All this comes within that scope of the emotional brain. What happens is that the emotional brain activates whenever there is a fight or flight situation. So it's much faster, and most times when there's a battle, it is the emotional brain that wins. And that's actually an obstacle. Let me illustrate this with two examples. Let us assume that you are driving and you see a roadblock, an actual roadblock. You're fine, but you get a sense of nervousness. You check your wallet, you check your driving license, and you realize your driving license has expired 2 days back. Now you're feeling nervous. You drive up, you wind down the windscreen, you look at the officer, and you know most time they may not even question you. They would just ask you to go. You look at him and you give a smile, and as you smile, you were constantly rubbing your neck. The officer then looks up to you and say, "Show me your license." He just gives you a summon. Now you wonder what went wrong. It's obvious, isn't it? Your body language reflected nervousness. When you started rubbing your neck, that is an attraction to show that you are nervous. And he identified that. That is because of your emotional brain. Let's take another example. Presuming that you have a wife who is suspicious, or a husband who is suspicious, and you have an opportunity to upgrade yourself, which requires you to be out of town most of the time. And you say to yourself, well, I have to explain this to my husband or explain this to my wife. And you feel that that's an agony to convince her that you're actually doing something good for yourself. And you realize rather than going through the agony, you might as well not talk about it. You just let go of the opportunity. This is, again, the mental roadblock. If you want to have a piece of the good life, that's what I've said, you need to maximize your potential. Give it your 100%, and don't ever fall prey to emotions. And I'm sure the good life is waiting for you. Ladies and gentlemen, all of us want to have a piece of the good life. Just follow your passions and approach every failure with a spark. I'm sure you're on the right track. This is your life. There's so much to do, so much to see. Make the best of this life in this world. I know of a person, a single mom, who brought up her son. She sold her only possession, her house. She had some savings for her retirement. She took it out to ensure that her son went to university. On the day the son graduated, that was a glorifying moment for her. she felt heaven at that moment. The sacrifices she made, she never thought that for a second she had to think for herself. She thought for another person. As long as you think for the betterment of other people, you have found heaven in this world. Thank you for watching.